Hey, what's up, YouTube? Well, we're about a month into the Major League Baseball season, and I know it's very early in the season overall. There's a ton of games to get through. We still have the summer coming up where everything's going to be going down, but there was one topic of interest for me that I wanted to talk about for you guys, and it concerns you, Darvish, the biggest acquisition for the Chicago Cubs, my Chicago Cubs, by the way, um, who had a very rough outing against the Colorado Rockies recently where you look at his stats here, pitching 4 1/3 innings, giving up 7 hits, 5 earned runs, and 3 home runs for the start. This is just a culmination of a rough outing for the Chicago Cubs in general, as they lost 11-2. 11-2. They've been really good, although as of recently, the Cubs have been pretty solid as a team so far this season. Overall, their pitching has been the strongest part of the team, except for Darvish. This is not just a first-time thing for you, Darvish, this season. This is the fourth time in his last 6 starts, really the only 6 starts he's had this entire season, where he did not make it 6 innings. This is an alarming trend, I think, for Darvish going forward. And when you look at the way Darvish has pitched so far this season, I think he's looked absolutely terrible so far, especially when you compare him to last year. Just going off his ERA as of now. I know it's early in the season, only 6 starts is a very small sample size, but his ERA after this last start is up to 6 already, which is compared to his 3.44 ERA of last season. That's a big spike in ERA. This would be his career high if it would stay on this trend, which I think it will go down eventually as the season goes on. I'm not too worried about that. But it is concerning for me in that, everything else, when you look at his stats here, his strikeout rate is down compared to previous season. His whip is up. His walk rate is up. His hit rate is up. Everything is just up for him in terms of some of those stats. And really, I think you have to consider here, you Darvish, he really struggled in the World Series last season with the Dodgers. I think some of that might have really impacted his confidence. He just hasn't looked like the same pitcher that we've seen over the past few seasons, where he's been a consistent all-star performer and one of the most dynamic pitching arms in the entire game of baseball. He has not looked anywhere close to that guy. And what's really interesting about this is that Yu Darvish was essentially brought in to replace Jake Arrieta, who's been so good for the Cubs for such a long time. But the Cubs decided that they wanted to move on, so he went to the Phillies. And when you look at Arrieta's stats so far this season, again, small sample size, I know, but he's actually been pretty solid so far for the Philadelphia Phillies. When you look at it, he has a 3.49 ERA. His whip, his hit rate, his home run rate, and walk rate are all much lower than Darvish's so far this season. And even though I think that a wins-loss record for a pitcher, it's more of a team stat. I don't put too much into it, so far, especially to this point in the season. But, Arrieta, he's got a 3-1 record so far compared to an 0-3 record for Darvish. So obviously, whenever Arrieta is out there, the Phillies have more often than not won the games. And he's been pretty solid overall this season. So even though it's early, I think the Cubs may have made a mistake here in terms of evaluating the pitching situation when you look at Darvish compared to Arrieta. Now, just looking at the contract situation here, I think it starts off there. Darvish was signed in the offseason to a 6-year deal worth about $126 million. That could be worth about $150 million when you include bonuses and stuff of that nature. When you compare this to Arrieta, he signed a 3-year deal with the Phillies for about $75 million. So it's about $25 million per year compared to about $21 million per year for Darvish. So, yeah, sure, Arrieta, he had a higher figure in terms of salary for his contract, but was Darvish really worth saving that extra $4 to $5 million per year in order to commit an extra 3 years? I say no. They're about the same age. When you look at Darvish is 31 years old right now. Arrieta was 32 at this point. And, overall, during the courses of their careers, Arrieta over the past few seasons, I know he's been a little bit on the downtrend maybe in terms of statistically, but he's been consistently a better or about a very similar pitcher to the way Darvish has been. Really the only area that Darvish is a bit better at has been his strikeout rate. Arrieta is not much of a strikeout pitcher. Darvish is always around a 10% strikeout rate. Really, does that really matter though? Because even though strikeouts, yes, it's an important stat to be able to absolutely embarrass hitters like that and show your dominance as a pitcher. Ultimately, what matters at the end of the day is how many runs are you giving up? How many base runners are you giving up? How much pressure are you putting on your defense to have to make plays? And Arrieta has consistently over the past few seasons been a much better pitcher than Yu Darvish is, if we're being quite honestly here. Now, obviously, going back to the offseason, Arrieta obviously was not going to settle for a hometown discount. This is pretty much his last opportunity to get a big deal, get a big contract for himself, and he should have taken it. He's been a very key part of the Cubs' success over the past few seasons. We look at he was a 2015 Cy Young winner who had just an insane season that season with a 1.77 ERA. I mean, it's almost impossible to have to follow that up with similar numbers. And yes, he's been on the downtrend in terms of his stats since then, but he's still been a very solid starting pitcher overall and a very consistent player for the Cubs for the past few seasons. But considering the fact that these yearly salary isn't really that far apart, I feel like the Cubs may start to feel a bit of buyer's remorse if Darvish can't start to turn this thing around. Because when you look at it at the end of the day, this is a case where you have to be careful what you wish for. Arrieta, by the Cubs front office estimation, was a guy that was seen as a guy that was on the decline, maybe getting a little bit up there in age. Maybe didn't have his same stuff as he was when he was a Cy Young contender for them. And they decided that they wanted to upgrade the position there. Sure, I guess you can have that line of thinking. Theo Epstein's done such a great job as a general manager that I really can't go against any of his thinking so far in this process. But they took a risk on a guy that has never really proven to be that much better, coming off of two of his career worst games of his entire career. And he's had injury problems as well in the past, and they're about the same age, and you're committing a much longer-term deal there. Now, we don't know how much the Cubs were willing to offer Arrieta overall, but what it looks like to me from the outside is that the Cubs might have made a huge mistake in terms of fixing their pitching rotation, because when you look at it, their bullpen has been fixed so far this season. Their hitting, while it has been hit and miss like it usually has been over the past few years, it's still pretty solid with a good foundation of young players to build around. And the starting pitching staff outside of Darvish has been pretty solid to start off the season. So this is a situation where they might be in a position where, maybe they might have signed the wrong guy here and going with Darvish instead of Arrieta. So what do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comment section below whether you agree with me. If Darvish, he might have been the wrong choice over Jake Arrieta. I know hindsight is always 20/20. Obviously, and it's still early in the season. Darvish, for all we know, can start to turn this thing around. Arrieta might start to struggle a little bit. But, yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. If you're a Cubs fan, how are you feeling so far about this Darvish signing? And, of course, please leave a like and subscribe for more content such as this. Thanks, guys, for watching.